Let's just start. Hello, Laura Racky. What are you doing? What are you making hand signals for?
You were making hand signals. I was trying to get on.
They were very funny. As promised, I'm dressed by Men's Suit Warehouse today.
Lovely.
And a jacket.
Looks great.
I got the beautiful jacket from Ange and Blake down at Men's Suit Warehouse. It was a good buy. Do you think it looks all right?
I do.
Yeah?
I like it.
Thanks,
Got to treat yourself sometimes.
You're wearing a cool jacket. Tell me what's going on here.
This is a Aussie brand, Little Dutch. I've had it for a while.
Little Dutch. Yes, I know them.
I thought that my teen might steal it off me, but I managed to get it out of his wardrobe today.
Yes. Oh, that's right. It had been borrowed, hadn't it? Yeah. Oh,
Why
you
not?
lent
Like,
it to him. It's a
it's
cool
so
jacket,
cool.
man. It's such a cool jacket.
And it says athlete on it, which is exactly what I am.
You are an athlete. Pilates is athletics. Hey, you know what? I'll tell you what. Send all the blokes down to do one proper Pilates reformer class. Let's see how much of an athlete they are.
Could also be my mental athletics.
All right, let's just start. Let's get past this into some serious
start?
business. No, well, we've started, but we'll start again.
Okay.
I have 3 interview questions that can change everything for every business and every person in the world.
That's a big
Statement.
promise.
Would you believe can make a slight increase on your outcomes?
No, I believe that you probably, if anyone is going to move the dial with very simple things, ingenious things, it would be you.
Okay, you want to hear them?
Yeah, I do. Do one at a time and explain the rationale behind each.
I've spent a lot of time on this because you can imagine the interview process for most industries is a joke. If you actually think about, for both sides, we're going to hire someone to join our organisation, we hope, for the next 10 years, and we're going to interview them for 30 minutes to 2 hours.
Interviews are awkward.
But even just talking to them for 2 hours maximum, let's say, in the process, and then we're going to commit to them for the next decade, and vice versa. The other side, someone meets 1, 2, 3 people maybe, and then they're expected to commit to a company of 10 to 10,000 for the next, maybe not forever, but for a long period of time. They've got a huge chunk of their life. Interviewing is a joke. How do you know what they actually want to do with their career? How do you know what you're getting into? You don't until you're in there. Anyway, this will solve all that. No, it won't solve that, but
it'll help.
It'll help. Okay, here's the first question.
Go.
You're in an interview. You and I are in an interview. I'm interviewing you for to come and join. Mm-hmm. And I ask you, what are your personal and professional ambitions for the next 1, 2, 5 years, whatever it might be, and how can we help you get there?
Wowza.
So it's one thing to ask about professional ambitions. What do you want to do with your career? Like, that's a relatively obvious question. Oh, I want to do this. I want to learn that. Yeah. Great. Personally, what do you got going on? What do you want to achieve with your life personally for the next 5 years or 10 years? And they might want to buy a house. They might want to get married. They might want to move overseas. They might want to start a little charity. They might want to do something. And you know that about them then. And from then on, professionally and personally, you can help them get where they want to go. And you might be surprised how cheap it is.
Interesting. What if they don't have good answers?
Well,
like, how do you judge the answer? So I understand you're using it as a fact-finding exercise, but also I'd assume that you're going to judge and critically analyse the response they give, right?
Well, it's funny you say that because this is the Machiavellian level.
Okay.
So that's the optimistic version is that someone comes up with something you can help with that aligns with what you're trying to do, and you know you can help them get there. Great. They can join your business. You're all on the same page as to what their ambitions are.
Sorry, go on. Yeah.
And you can help facilitate you're off and running.
Yep.
If their ambitions don't align with what you can do, well, you're probably not. They might say in 12 months, I want to move to Afghanistan and I want to do charity work. And you say,
or I want to be the head of the department.
I want to be the CEO in 2 years. And you're like, well, okay, this is probably not someone for us because we know we're going to run into a problem later on and we're not for each other. So that's, if their ambitions don't align, then you're in the no basket. But if they don't have ambitions, let's say they're under a certain age, or let's say they haven't thought it through, or they don't know that, then you can make a judgment if you're for them and they're for you. It might be an opportunity to help educate them on how to build ambition. If you see that they've got a bit of talent, they're smart, they've got a bit of energy, but they're just a bit directionless, you can make a judgment call on whether you can help them find some direction. So it's extremely instructive. It tells you how much they think about themselves and other people. The people who are really clearly laid out, and you've met them, you understand who these people are, they're in the narrow, they're less than 5% of people, are like, this is where I'm going. This is the steps I'm taking. Then if you know that, you can know that this is probably a 2-year prospect for us to have this person, and they're going to want bigger. Or we're going to invest heavily in this person and we're going to build our whole growth plan around them or whatever.
Yep.
It helps instruct what path they're going to take. Or they've got very little ambition and it's a role that doesn't need ambition. It's a repetitive role. Happy days, they're a good person, good ethics, etc. So ambition.
Yep.
What are your personal and professional ambitions? How can we help you get there? Now, on thinking, you happy with that one?
Yeah.
Think it's
That's
useful?
good.
So the next one is, what's something you have changed your opinion on or changed your position on? Now, this is all about, I mean, it helps understand what their values are, but it's actually about their thought process.
Yeah.
So if I asked you, I'm going to throw the ball to you now, what's something you've changed your opinion on in the last 1, 2, 5, 10
You're
years?
really putting me on the spot.
Well, you're in this interview. Laura, what's something you've changed your opinion on? Maybe you held a strong opinion and you were swayed by evidence.
Does it have to be a strong opinion?
No.
I can think of something really basic, which is like I was pretty naive about kids on the internet, kids in social media, and not so much myself, but other people that I might have followed and not thinking anything of it. And now I really understand how dangerous that is for kids and also the long-term implications of having kids online.
So you're saying them being online, or you posting pictures and videos of them?
Posting, sorry.
You posting.
Yes. Not me posting or following creators that are posting. So now I will actively avoid that.
Yeah.
And that's not in a judgy way, maybe a little bit, but I've changed my view that that's okay, and now I believe that it's not okay. I don't think that was the answer that you wanted.
No, but this is but this is the point, right? Is that people think that it has to be perfunctory, only work-focused questions.
Yes.
Tell me a situation where you've been in this scenario and what you did and how you, that's fine. Those behavioural questions are fine. But you've got to work with these people for the next 1, 2, 5, 10 years, and to actually understand the decision-making and the values and the things that matter to this is the next 10 or 20 years of business.
So is it about eliciting from them the degree to which they are malleable?
No. It's understanding them at an individual level within an org structure that doesn't.
I would listen. I would be using that to test how rigid they are in their
Of course,
views.
that's part of it. I'm saying whether they fit you or not.
Yep.
So on paper, they might look good.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's going to work, because if they give you an answer that's totally irrelevant to your business, how is that going to help you with the fit?
No, but you understand. You just have to know what you're getting into.
Right.
You have to know what you're getting into. So often what will happen is there'll be someone will, on paper will be fine. They're gregarious in interview and they slip through. Mm-hmm. And you only find out 12 months, 18 months, 24 months later that there's some issues that if you knew them at the start, you wouldn't have hired them.
Got it.
Vice versa, someone goes to an interview, they go through a boring process, they're like, oh, well, this will do, and they are 18 months later miserable, 12 months later, and it ends up in catastrophe. These are, you got all your other questions, you can still ask other boring questions, but these are polished filter questions for both parties.
Okay.
So if, let's say you ask me my opinion, what about something I've changed my opinion on? Like my opinion on parenthood has totally changed, right? So from before I was a parent to early days and then now, like, it's evolved where I had certain views, the same as most would say, haha, this person with their kid and on their iPad in the restaurant, what are you doing? Like 15 years ago, I would do that differently. Yeah, righto, buddy, right? But a whole bunch of other issues on values that I would never thought I would have had, and I've changed my mind significantly on a lot of those issues. Now, imagine knowing that about someone when they're joining your organisation and you understand that level of maturity or that whatever they've gone through it, they've changed their opinion. First of all, are they capable of changing their opinion? Yes. Are they stuck on issues that they can't get past?
Yeah.
These are really important to understand about them coming in.
Okay, I like it.
Okay. And the third question is, imagine, this is going much longer than I thought it might do, but whatever. What's something about you that is often misunderstood? Now, I'll tell you the value of this question.
I love this question.
It's such an important question because someone might be viewed as arrogant when they're not.
Yes.
Someone might be viewed as selfish when they're not. Or maybe they are and they don't realise it. They come in like, my last 2 jobs, people always thought that I was a bully, but I'm not. I'm misunderstood. And then going in with this individual
Yes.
that there's something that is bothering them about how they're perceived, and you can help them professionally develop to change it.
Yep.
Laura, I'm going to make up a percentage. There's 10% of the workforce out there that are totally misunderstood, that are not being used to utility, that if you could get them to move in a direction where they could be understood better and or change their ways a little bit, their productivity go through the ceiling.
I find this really funny because you're not generally a blue sky guy, right?
Of course I am. I'm all blue sky.
But all of these questions, you're thinking of them as like looking at untapped talent and building potential and all these great things, which I think is excellent. But I am thinking, I'm putting a lens of like with that question you just asked, to me, I'm like, oh, that'd be great to bring out some deep-seated issue that person has that would give you the red flag up front.
But that's the Machiavellian version. It's true, but useful. So this is a dual use.
But that's what I'm saying. So that's how I would be perceiving all of these things.
This filters for both of you, you and them, whether you are a probability of success. It increases.
Oh, I'm misunderstood. People don't think I'm good enough, but I'm better than everyone I've ever worked with ever. It's like, okay,
they're not for us, and vice versa.
Yeah. So,
thanks for coming in. Right?
That's why I think it's a good question, not because I'd be like, oh, wow, I want to help them be understood.
No, but think about how many people, let's say, have limited communication ability. No one's ever spent any time on them, but they're extremely competent.
Yeah.
And they're misunderstood because no one's ever spent the time to help them communicate even 101.
Yeah.
But they can do something that's extremely productive, and they're hungry to change the perception. Now, some people will be aware of that perception, want to change it, but won't change it.
Yes.
So there's a risk that they identify it, you hire them because you're like, okay, well, we can work with that.
Yeah.
They come along because it's so deeply embedded in them, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, no change. So that is, it's not a solve all. But if you add these 3 questions to your question set, your boring boilerplate questions, they're going to make a huge difference. You're going to filter people. You're going to filter people who are thoughtful. You're going to understand how they make decisions, how they perceive themselves, and how they perceive others' perception of them. Because if we think about the modern workplace, particularly in services industries, it's 2/3 of the job, mate. How you communicate, how you present. You don't want to end up with bull in a china shop in meetings 3 months down the road. You want to be able to understand, is this person self-aware, and do they fit our values, and vice versa, and can we help them get where they want to go so that they become a 11 out of 10 where they might be a 6 out of 10 now.
So repeat the 3 questions.
What are your professional and personal ambitions, and how can we help you get there?
Yeah.
Tick. That's a really valuable conversation. 2, what's something that you have changed your opinion on, maybe even deep-seated, change your opinion on with more information? And 3, what was the last one again? What's a misperception or something that you're misunderstood about that you would like to change? I think they are very valuable. I've used them.
They're also good, like I said at the start, interviews are generally pretty awkward moments. And because these things are quite deep and quite quick, if the vibe is right, and I go on vibes with these things, then it's going to kick off really good conversation.
You say that, but that's not true. You go on vibes, but you are far deeper than that. Like, you're very analytical.
Well,
good pattern recognition.
Sorry. It seems like vibes, but I can work it out pretty quickly in the conversation, in an interview. Yep. I just know. And I used to ignore those feelings and just go to the surface. Yep. Now I'm like, I know why I'm feeling like this. This is not a good fit.
Do you know what's the funny thing about that? If your gut tells you something, even if it's wrong, you still have to follow it.
I agree.
Because...
what else is there?
If your gut tells you something's wrong and you don't follow it, you're screwed.
Well, your gut...
Your gut is almost always right, but even if it's wrong, you've got to follow it. Yeah, people don't follow intuition enough. And how many times you look back 6 months later, you're like, I knew this is exactly how this was going to end.
Yes.
And you didn't follow it.
Yes.
So what do you think of the questions? Should we add them to every interview set in Australia, in the world?
Yeah, we'll just make it mandatory. We'll let Fair Work know.
We don't like coercion. We like to invite people to have the questions.
We'll
so add them to your questions, everyone.
And we want to hear how they play out in the real world.
Would you like to do an election update?
I would love an election.
Would you like to do some interview questions?
No. I think I've never thought about it on the level that you're talking about. Like I said, I go on vibes. I'm very fluid in my interviews. Probably I could work on.
Yeah, a bit cavalier.
I am. Again, I go on vibes. So I kind of know how to.
You say that, but it's just not true. You have extremely strong pattern recognition.
Anyway, I think I would, if you're going along the themes that you're talking about, it would be really interesting for me to understand what the thing that someone is most proud of. I'd like to ask that question.
What are you most proud of? That's a good question. You should add that and make it 4.
Because that would instruct me on what they value the most and also what they see as their value in the world.
So let's say someone in law practice, maybe they had a difficult upbringing and it was a real challenge for them to get through university for a variety of reasons. I mean, how important is that to know when you're hiring this person? Because you know they've fought for every inch to get what they have. There's no...
That they have pride in their achievement.
Right.
They have
and
pride in their work.
Most likely continue to, right? It's so important to know. And you might look at it and go, oh, you took 7 years to finish what it should have taken 4. But when you understand why...
7 years.
I'm sorry, or 10 years to whatever, to do what should have taken 4 or 5. When you understand the context and what they're proud of, you can, okay, that's a good one. So do you want an election? Would you like an election update? Are you interested at all?
Shot glass version, because...
If I asked you...
I'm always interested.
With this federal election, what are you most interested in, even if it is a low interest?
I look at the election stuff in the prism of media, groupthink. I like to analyse it in that way. I don't go into the actual policies or any of that, because that, to me, I think actually doesn't seem to matter. Right?
Some do. Like 1 or 2 usually do, but not much more.
I just find the zeitgeist, the conversations, the vibe, that to me is interesting. I like looking at the volunteers that are out spruiking and trying to categorise them and understand why they have chosen that to be their tribe.
Interesting.
You know, that to me is what tickles my brain. Not so much like, you know, is Peter Dutton or Albanese a better Prime Minister? Because it doesn't really matter. The people are going to do what the people are going to do. So I like to look at the people side of it.
Interesting. Well, me too. I actually am staggered by how many people volunteer for political parties. I must admit.
I'm not, because I think in this day and age, it's actually...
This is their religion.
It's not easy as adults to find little cliques and
tribes
and be in a tribe and feel belonging, connected. And what an amazing way to, for no cost, no risk, walk into a volunteer space and be enveloped by the group and be part of something.
I love the fact that we have the elections that we do. I'm going to be a bit misty-eyed here, because this could easily be more violent. If you look in the majority of the world, maybe not the majority, but close to the majority of the world, they don't have this sort of election, right? We are extremely fortunate, and we should guard it.
Yes.
But while nothing is ever over, I think this one's pretty much over. I think. Are
you going to say which way?
Oh no! Look,
you're going to call it.
If
Christian Cunningham is calling,
and
forget the ABC.
Let's Just Start podcast is ready to make the call. If the ALP and Anthony Albanese were to lose this election, it would be the greatest fumble in Australian political history. They have every single trend in their favour. Right. One of those is he has an opposition leader that nobody wants, not really. Is not very popular. Albo is very popular because Albo is a demonstrably very good person. A lot of people like him personally. Yes. Regardless of his competence. With Dutton, no one knows who he is. He hasn't sort of volunteered any of his personal life to the electorate, and everyone knows that he believes in some things, but he won't tell us what they are. So no one will trust that. I think he's got a real problem there. Policy aside, like you say, how many people could list 5 policies? Could you? Probably not. It's a vibey thing. The ALP's had probably the biggest influx of unexpected revenue this term in the history of politics in this country. So they've had a lot of cash to spend, and that's been well spent. to cover over a lot of issues. Some of those will reveal themselves in 3 years. And if this election's held again in 3 years, I think it will be very, very different. Very different. But I would say it's pretty much over now.
Called.
I'm calling it. I'm happy to call it.
Haven't the early vote started?
Early vote started.
Any data?
There's some data, but none of this data is real. It's all polling data. I don't
Right.
trust any polling data anymore. I would say there's a possibility that the Liberals gain seats
Yes, but not enough.
and still lose.
Right.
So the Teal seats, they might pick up 1 or 2 off the ALP. ALP might pick up 1 or 2 off the Greens, because the Greens have got 4 seats in the lower house. I think 3 or 4. So it could be a little bit of musical chairs to end up exactly where we are now again,
Okay.
I think, if I had to guess. Unless something changes.
We'll revisit in a couple of weeks.
Something could change. Like Trump arriving with the tariffs gave Albo an almighty boost. All left-wing governments, in fact, around the world. It
Right.
defanged right-wing governments around the world because it gave them a boogeyman, rightly or wrongly, and we'll stand up against this. We're coming after our country. We'll, get to...
Yeah.
And it gives them 5 days of a news cycle where they don't have to talk about policy. They can just be like, Orange Man bad. That's great. So it's probably over, is my opinion. Now, I've got a little list. What else have we got?
I don't know. What have we got?
Buying a business or starting a social media account?
Let's talk about buying a business.
Tell me, Laura Racky, how much
Yes.
fun have you had in your legal and other career with buying businesses?
I love working on business sale and purchase transactions. They're actually really fun and exciting for
Tell
me.
me why.
I think there's lots of moving parts. So it's always exciting. There's always some little gremlin in a cupboard. Doesn't matter how organised you are. There's also checklists. I love a good checklist.
Yes.
So there's a process and a checklist and a working through issues.
All right, so let's start from the top. So we're talking about when people are looking to either buy a business,
Yeah.
acquire acquire something that's existing,
Yes.
buy franchise maybe, something like that.
Yeah,
Although
I
I'm
don't really
less
do
thrilled
that.
about that, not interested in that. Most of the businesses of these I've been involved in are services, although
Yeah.
some have product, like a lot of have assets, but they're not manufacturing, building, making.
I've done a lot of manufacturing.
You've done a lot more of that. What are the few things that you look for from
Hang on, I
this?
didn't finish why I like it so
I'm
much.
sorry, but we wanted to,
I enjoy the other aspect of it, and obviously I like people side of a lot of things. These ones are always interesting, like my clients and the other side, it's personal.
Yes.
These are businesses either people have built up and grown, or my client is buying in and they're excited and it's all about the future, and they're really generally like friendly, collaborative transactions.
Yeah, right.
And I just love when these things happen and I see my clients put the shingle up and, they have their first day in control and,
Happy days.
happy days.
Exciting,
So
yeah.
or selling and moving on with their life. And,
Yeah.
they've got a reason for selling. But, yeah, it's very personal and emotional. So I really enjoy that. But there's a lot of complexities, which I like. Keeps my little brain ticking and excited, interested.
I think you raised a very important point there that people often forget when it comes to buying and selling businesses is actually the personal aspect. Like these are
Highly personal.
people's sometimes their entire
Yes.
ego, their entire identity
Yep.
is wrapped in with the ownership of that business.
Yes.
And I mean, there are a couple of examples I prefer not to talk about here, but where a business has ended and that's ended the life of the individual. And I have a really good client who always said to me, never let your identity become your business, because if the business goes, then what?
Yeah, but people put their life and soul.
He's right though.
Yeah, of course. That's maybe too far. But people do put their energy and, a lot of time in building things.
Their little baby.
So, yeah, I mean, when I'm looking at these transactions, like obviously it's quite different depending on which side you're on. You've got really different things that you're concerned
Priorities,
about.
yeah.
If you're selling, you want to make sure that you get your money and you're sailing away into the sunset and nothing ever comes back, ever. To do with that, it's got to be,
burn the
it's a
boats.
full split, walk.
Yep.
And look, obviously often there are earn-outs or people stay on to help, transfer things over. So there's that sort of stuff. But when you're selling, that's the main thing to look at.
To sell it, get the cash
Right.
and never have to think about it
And
again.
when you're buying, you want to make sure that you're not handing over the cash until you've got every single thing you need to run that business and run it well. So, you know, the other thing from a legal perspective that you've got to look at is whether you're buying shares or you're buying the business.
Yes, please explain the difference in that. That's very important.
The way again, if you're a client of mine and you've heard me use this analogy, soz, but I look at it like selling a house versus selling the furniture. So when you buy the business, you might just be taking all of the furniture out of the house. So you're just taking all of the assets, but the structure, all the bills, the broken plumbing, any crap, anything unpaid, any outstanding liability to do with the house, that's got nothing to do with you. You would just strip out the assets and you buy those. And unless there are some liabilities that you agree to be taking over, generally that's what you're taking.
So where does that liability sit, Laura?
That'll be with the seller. So that will feed into the price. Sometimes there are things agreed. You might pick up the employee liabilities, for example.
Like super and like leave liabilities and that sort of thing.
Super, usually the seller will pay out. But when you buy shares or sell shares, it's the whole house. So it comes like warts and all, tax liabilities, any claim if that company is sued.
5 years ago, 7 years ago, it's all
so
on you.
they're very different structures, and they depends on the business, depends on what the parties want. I know I'm not an accountant, but I'm fairly sure that there are some pretty good CGT benefits for a seller to sell shares. So I think if you've held your business for a period of time, from a tax perspective, you get a better treatment if you sell your shares. But then you've got to find a purchaser willing to take on all your
liability.
Historical crap.
Yeah.
That's a big one to just get right at the start. And then the process is very straightforward, but it's messy. You know, like no one ever knows if you're going to be able to settle on a particular date. You've got to make sure you're going to get the agreement for the employees to come across to the new buyer. You might have contracts that you need to have assigned to the new buyer. Like there's a lot that's not in the pure control of the buyer and the seller. And that's what makes these things a little bit fun and messy.
Yeah.
Whereas I think often people are under this false impression, I just sell it and they buy it and the money changes hands, we give them the keys. But there's all these other third parties you've got to deal with.
It's very interesting. Like you've got, the question you ask yourself is, what are you buying? Like forgetting the structure, like as in, am I buying capability? Am I buying manufacturing? Am I buying a client list, customer list?
Where's the value?
Where's the value, right?
Yeah.
Or am I just buying someone's retirement?
Yeah.
And the reason I wanted to talk about this topic today is because what I am seeing is, and I've got lots going on, is that there's a generation of people retiring in industries that have gone for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And now they're trying to sell heaps of them all at once. And some of them are worthless without them in it, and some of them are really valuable. And it's hard to know what, you're buying something where if a key person is the center of everything, has all the knowledge, and they're leaving, as another client of mine would say, the business is worthless. What are you actually buying? Yeah,
and they have they might have all the customer connections, all of that long-term relationship stuff. And even if you're buying a business, you get the client list, you take over the contracts. Like those contracts aren't going to be 10-year long contracts. So if you're going to put yourself in the shoes of that previous owner, you've got to work pretty quick smart to bed down all of those relationships or create new ones to make sure you're getting the value. So you can't be silly thinking, oh, well, this is how it's traded up till now. I'll just take over and it'll be the same. There's a lot that you can't lock in.
Yep.
Even the employee aspect. I mean,
how do you guarantee they're going to stay? You can't.
Well, even if you transfer them over, even if that's a condition of the settlement that they sign on with you, an employee can, you can't, good luck getting an employee to stay unless you pay them a lot more money than they're being paid. You've got to be smart about these things. But I do enjoy those transactions. And you're right about there being a lot of these sort of, a lot of couples, lots of mums and dads that have run these businesses 20, 30, 40 years, and they're phenomenal businesses and they've built really great wealth off the back of it. But they've worked incredibly hard. But the thing that I think a lot of people dismiss is the risk that these individuals take on. So if you're in manufacturing, like, you're maybe hooked onto a significant lease liability. You've got to have a warehouse. You've got to have space. You're not doing it in a little tiny corner office. These are significant lease obligations.
Yep.
You're going to have given personal guarantees for that. The landlord's going to want the same from an incoming buyer. Again, all of the employee liabilities that you're taking on. If you've significant staff numbers, those liabilities rack up very, very quickly.
Yes.
You've got all these mouths to feed, not just your own. If you've got equipment, a lot of it might be on lease. So again, more liability, exposure to guarantees. So you can't make and build this great wealth from these sorts of long-term businesses without accepting and acknowledging that there's going a lot of
shit ton of risk,
debt, liability. It all comes with it, and if you can do it well, it's okay. But if you get it wrong, I mean, you might have even borrowed money to fund the purchase, so you're really putting your butt out on the line there.
It's a hard one. There are scenarios I've been involved with in this where the business has been sold for $1, accepting liabilities, as you say, and then putting it on a bigger balance sheet so that it looks pretty small. But there's strategic value. We've done that a number of times. It's been really valuable where maybe directors are in that situation where they've, one or two want to leave, and one of them's like, I'm not holding the can for every like they've got guarantees going everywhere, and they're like, I just want to get out of this. I want to do what I do well, working for someone else again and not be on the hook for everything. And this is not for everyone, by the way. But I think in the next already now, but over the next 5 years, there's going to be serious opportunities to acquire some of these aging out businesses. So the businesses are too valuable for the owners to sell down to their staff. And if they haven't built up equity from their internal workers over the last 15 years, they've got a real problem because they can't extract any value.
No.
The staff can't afford to buy it off them, basically.
No way.
Right? If it's worth millions and their staff are earning thousands, good luck. So they have to sell. But then when they come along, someone comes along to buy it, like you and I might be talking to a company that, well, look at this. If it doesn't add up, that with them leaving, well, you can't sell. What do? Do you sell it for a lot less? There's some hard decisions coming for a lot of these companies. What are some red flags you look at if you see a company that you're considering buying? Are there one or two things that stand out that you're like, let's be careful about this one?
If it's not like a brick and mortar like hospitality or retail or online where you can just see sales trends and you just know that if you dip in this much for marketing and whatever, it'll just kind of keep washing its face. If you're looking at businesses that are services and goods but that are customer relationship businesses, that's where I'd have a lot of nervousness because, again, that's the stuff that you cannot control.
You can't buy it.
You can't just step in and keep doing the status quo. If those customers have always liked Bill, I deal with Bill. Bill quotes me. I like Bill. Well, Bill's gone. Well, I don't want to work with you anymore. I'm going to go to Sam down the street. You cannot control that. So that's, I think, not a red flag. I think that should factor into when you're deciding on what you think the value of the business and what you're willing to pay, that you wouldn't maybe do the calculation on the revenue in the ordinary way because you might discount it in some way to say, well, this is not locked and loaded.
Got it.
For the next few years. And then, like you said...
how do you price in that doubt, though? That's very hard to do.
Again, this is why it's so fun.
It is fun. That's great fun.
And then, obviously, the employee side of things. You just can't ignore the deep relationships and ways of doing things that employees build over time. And when the owners and the leaders of the business are gone, you don't know what you're going to get from these people.
But then you never buy anything, Laura.
No, of course. You've got to take a risk, but you have to think about these things. You can't look at something and say, I'm buying this in this square unchanged. It will change.
And here's all the possible ways it can and will.
So I'm not saying don't do it, but you've got to factor it into what you're willing to borrow to get in, how much effort it's going to take from you personally. Like, you can't pick up these businesses and think it's going to be a little side hustle.
You're going to be in it.
Oh, well, the manager runs it.
It's under management. In fact, anytime I read under management or someone says, it's under management, I say, no, that's not true. Okay, I have one
I feel like it's a bit legal, but I think you would have a different way of thinking about acquisitions.
Look, all of what you said makes total sense to me. And we always look at the financials, we look at the contracts, we look at who the relationships are with. Like, are they exposed to one or two? Like, I'm in a lot of service industries. Are they exposed to one or two clients only?
Yes.
Is it 75% of their revenue?
High risk,
right?
Yeah.
Which is risk reward. Like, if you can continue the relationship, there's no reason why it wouldn't. Then great. What are their potential? Like, I'm doing a lot of construction engineering, that sort of thing. Any claims or that sort of thing coming up? But anyway, but actually, then I actually look for weird things. I look for nepotism. Mm-hmm. So if I see the same surname 3 times in a company, I start to get nervous.
Yep. Interesting.
Right. You know, I mean, I think that's self-explanatory. If they're hiring the whole family, often very competent, but you know, like, what's the dynamic there?
And how does that change when
take key person out? Does 2 or 3 key people go with it? How does all that work? Is it a little bit culturally? I focus heavily on transition.
Yep.
So I have, interestingly, for years worked with companies on the other side who were doing the acquiring, but I wasn't involved in it at all. And they might be multinationals. That is, none of the people I'm talking with or dealing with are in any way involved in the decision, but they're involved with the transition. And I've watched companies be destroyed time and time and time and time, almost exclusively, one after another. When they're acquired, they're a total cultural mismatch, might be a global decision, and they just get eviscerated. Everything that's good about them gets destroyed. So if you're going to acquire a business, you have to acquire it for why it's good, and let that remain. You might put what you do well to intertwine, but don't try and force feed it into your operating structure. The transition is so important. It's so important. It's maybe more important than the acquisition. You're going to have a percentage of people will fall off because they worked for that company because it was that company identity, and now it's not that company anymore, and they're going to go. You stitch up the people that are the most important, and the rest will maybe they self-select. You're going to have overlap of responsibilities. You're going to have all these things you need to deal with. If you think you could just come buy something, tack it on, and let it run, it will not work almost ever. Suddenly it'll go from doing $2 million profit to 1.5 to 1.2 to 1.
And it'll just be war of attrition.
And it slowly dies. Right? So transition, integration, extremely important. Be careful not to buy someone's retirement. I think we've both seen personal scenarios where people have been paid their money and they've just disappeared, right? And it's like...
But if that's the deal...
Yeah, but it's often not the deal, and then it's like, what do you do, right? Like, I've had a couple of people that I know personally where they've been paid for their business and the company basically forgot that they bought it almost. Like, they just sort of... And it's like, okay. That's pretty much the...
It's funny you talk about the cultural fit and alignment. I saw this great TikTok where this woman was talking about, you know, she heads up a team and they take lunch whenever it works during the day. And there was an acquisition, new COO or whatever came in, and I don't know what time she was having her lunch, and he was trying to ring her, and when she got back, he was like, where were you?
What's going on?
And she said, I was taking my lunch. And he said, no, from now on, everyone must take their lunch from 12:30 to 1:30. And she's like, well, that doesn't really work because we're working to deadlines and we're flexible with our lunch. No, I need to know when lunch is so that we can work around it, so on, blah, blah, blah. And so she just said, all right, everybody, 12:30, pens down, right? And she said the CEO on one particular day was trying to contact everyone in her team and she couldn't get on to anybody. And then she finally got on. The CEO got onto her and he said, where is everyone? Oh, the new COO said we must take lunch between 12:30 and 1:30.
Right.
And so that's what we did. And so the CEO said, get me the COO. But that got changed very quickly. But it's that same thing of if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, like, just be careful what you meddle with, I think.
The team's humming along. Yeah. They're being treated with respect to take lunch when it works because they know as adults when they need to be at their desk and when they don't. And then you have someone come in to try and make these rules and babysit them and the whole system falls over.
It's so micro stuff too, but this is what you're buying them for. You're buying them for what they're good at and how they're good at it. So going and doing this in a way that we're going to bring what we do and lay it on top of them. Of course, there's going to be a bit of that, but like, why buy them then?
Yeah.
You know? So acquisition is very tricky business.
It's a fun one. I think we could talk about lots of different elements about acquisitions and sales, but maybe not today. This was a good starter.
Still starter.
Little teaser.
You are currently going through it. You are currently going through the joys.
I am.
Of starting a brand new social media account.
Well, I'm just following in your footsteps since you are a TikTok
phenomenon.
phenomenon.
Stop it.
And I've watched you, with great respect that you have consistently committed to this process without being attached to the outcome. And what has been incredible to watch is actually how your content just continues to improve.
I think that's fair.
Like, it
was pretty bad.
I don't think it was
pretty bad.
No, I don't think it was bad. I think that when you're starting out, and this is what I'm finding, like when you're starting out, you're a little bit more mechanical. You're thinking about the audience. You're thinking about, well, what are people going to find interesting?
Yeah, and that's obviously the horribly wrong way to do it.
Right. And the actual best way to approach it is to be your most authentic self and share things that you know and are of value without thinking too much about whom the value might be to.
Yes, because the truth is, Laura, you don't know. When you go and set up a new account, you're starting from scratch, you're doing anything really, doing anything else, you don't know who it's going to resonate with. I remember Arnold Schwarzenegger always says, we say this line, we say that line, they say, I'll be back. And he said to, James Cameron, it feels too mechanical, like I'm a machine, I should be saying, I will be back. And James Cameron says, you act, I'll direct, sort of tells him off. And now everywhere he goes, I'll be back. Everyone's like, see the light, see the light. It's like, I'll be back, right? You don't know what's going to land. So you have to be you.
Yeah.
And in the end, that's all you have.
Yeah.
You have what you know, what you've learned, what you've gone through, and how you communicate. And if you want to start a social media account and you think you're going to copy what someone else is doing, it might work. I'm sure it has worked. It won't work. It won't work. The odds are extremely low.
What have you found the hardest? Is it showing up every day?
No. Well, okay. So I'll tell you just to be clear, I've only made a small dent on one platform. So Instagram doesn't work for me at all. LinkedIn is okay.
Forget it. LinkedIn is ridiculous. I have over 8,000 connections on LinkedIn, and if I post, I get like 200 impressions. Nobody is on that platform.
No, they're on there. I think it's actively suppressed, so you pay for it. I think that's actually
ridiculous.
Which Instagram as well, they're incentivized to pay. But TikTok, I think there's a level of maturity of the type of content that's on TikTok that's different. It's different. It's far more informative than an Instagram or any of those others. LinkedIn is basically performative, and anyway, conversation for another day. But TikTok,
I saw a lady crying in the street. I offered her a job.
What's hilarious to me is you put me onto TikTok. Is I resisted it. You were watching all these, and they were interesting, and they were what's the word? Informative.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you doing? This thing, like it's basically spyware, which it is. And what are you doing? And you're like, no, it's amazing. Like I'm learning all these things. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. So I spent a month or two on it, and I learned so much.
Crazy, isn't it?
Like, I can't explain how much. It was crazy. And I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And so I took the leader build and started. And I was clunky at the start. That was hard, getting past the cringe, getting past myself, thinking about what people might like. And this was just obviously stupid because you can't guess that. And then I just started, and my basic premise was, if I can explain these concepts in less than 3 minutes or 2 minutes, then I understand them. And there's all these leadership, training, coaching, like business things that if I can capture them in less than 2 minutes, then I'm okay to try. I'm comfortable training and coaching on them. And that's the whole point.
So it's like a little pop quiz for yourself.
For myself.
Yep.
And then suddenly millions of views.
Yep.
Within a year. And I'm like, I don't understand what's going on here. A couple of them broke through, big ones on corporate ladder issues.
They were ones you weren't expecting.
And this is the thing, I'll be back. You just don't know what it's going to be, right?
What's amazing now is, like, I used to hear you recording and you would take and take and take another take, another take, another take.
At the start, yeah.
And now often it's just one go.
Take, yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Well, that was the whole point, is to get it to one take. Is I can get to the point where, they're not perfect, by the way, but like there'll be things that if I watch them back 3 months later, I'm like, ugh. But I think you just have to keep going. And pardon me, I see lots of people that have done extremely well at it that are different, that are better production quality, or let's say more thirst trappy or whatever they might be doing. Mine's very basic. And it's just like, and I don't care. If it went away tomorrow, I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
And it's got some interesting, like people from all over the world contacted me. Can we do this? Can we do that? And I'm like, what? Really?
Yeah.
Companies from overseas, people, directors of companies like, can you do some training for us? I'm like, really? Just because of TikTok?
Yeah.
So I think it's worth doing because it's fun.
It is fun.
But you have to be there every day.
Yeah. So for me, I've started reading The Artist's Way. Mm-hmm. I'll admit that I did a good 2 weeks committed, and then
a bit longer than that, wasn't it?
No, 2 weeks, and it really needs sort of at least half an hour to an hour a day of
So just
work.
giving the background, this is a book that does what?
It's supposed to bring out your creative self, and honestly, I think it's great for people without a job or kids. So I just found carving out that time. That time's there. I just hadn't prioritised it. But a big thing for me was that some fears that I have had to work through, and part of that is pushing through and putting myself out there on this platform. And then also I think for me it's the true creative element of the TikToks that in my work, I can think creatively, but I'm not making anything.
You're in a box.
I'm not creating anything. Yeah. And I do have that part of myself. And so it's just this really fun play. To me, it's like, it's playful.
But that's what it is. It's nothing, right? It is a creative outlet that might go somewhere. And it is like...
I plan for it to go somewhere. I'm going to commit. I am committed to doing it. And I think that's the hardest part for me, is that even if you have a day where you're not feeling it, you've got to find a way to get something up there. That's really hard. And I think when you're starting out, you don't want to be posting crappy things just to post something up there. But every day I do it, the pressure feels less and less, and it feels more like just something fun and to break up the day. So
that's awesome. That's the best way to look at it. So the best at this in history is Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
He said two things that stuck with me, will stick with me forever. One, do your first 100 videos and then you'll know.
Yep.
Right? He said until you've done, I think it was 100, until you've done 100 videos, you don't know anything.
Right.
Like that you have to go through that muscle building
Yeah.
exercise. Two, it doesn't matter how many followers you have, any video can go viral if you get it right. So keep, iterating.
Yes.
Keep iterating until you get to the point where you might have 100 followers, but suddenly you get a video with 100,000, 200,000 views because you just click into the right part at the right time of the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
A bit like our podcast years ago when all of a sudden we were on the charts across the world because we timed it exactly right. Never to be seen
Nobody
again.
was recording podcast.
That's right.
Except us. All right, I think we have to move. We have to keep moving.
Okay, beauty.
We want to do a Laura Loves.
Laura Loves. This is our Laura Loves / beauty segment, I've decided.
It's going to be really quick.
Tell me about Laura Loves.
I want to talk about tallow balm because it's very controversial. And what's fascinating
What is tallow balm, Laura Racky?
Well, it's made from animals. I'm pretty sure it's tallow. It's in their joints and ligaments, which I got to say, these days I'm pretty much 80% animal based.
Here's something you've changed your opinion on.
Yeah, that's true. I was a vegetarian for 8 years. Mm-hmm. Not a vegan, but a vegetarian.
Me too.
And I had ethical and health reasons for that. Now...
You were?
What's that?
Wrong.
Maybe I'm wrong now. I don't know, but I feel good. If it's from an animal, it's on my face. It's in my mouth.
Jesus.
We've got ghee in the coffee. We've got beef liver tablets, meat or chicken every single day. Tallow balm on my face. I've been using it probably...
The sheep...
lanolin for my lips. Divine. I've been using tallow balm, I think nearly 2 years now.
Has to be.
And I it's an Australian brand that I use called Tutafare. I'm probably pronouncing it incorrectly. and it is beautiful. I put it on at night and I put it under a really thick cream, and it, you know, I know my skin's a bit older. It wants that oil. It wants that moisturising. It has not broken me out. No skin irritation.
Yep.
What has been fascinating to me is watching big skincare poo-poo tallow balm. Despite, if you see any clip online where big skincare or anyone in the sort of like chemical skincare field saying tallow balm is no good, all of the comments will be filled with people saying how good it has been for their skin.
Wrong.
Right.
Yep.
So that has really made me think about the skincare industry generally. And, you know, it's a bit like health, like they don't actually care about you or your health. They just care about selling the product. Tallow balm is super clean, no chemicals. Some people talk about the scent. I use it at night, and within like 20 minutes, whatever sort of interesting scent you have is gone.
Yep.
So anyway, I would say I love tallow balm. I will
Laura
be
loves
using
tallow
it
balm.
for a long, long time, I think. I love that it's clean. I love that it's simple. And
I'd say it's had a noticeable effect on your skin too.
I think so
for sure.
too.
Yeah,
I think so too. So yeah, if it's from an animal,
love it.
give it to me.
You love it.
I love it.
No, that's good. And I think maybe another day we'll have a conversation about animal-based diet too, but that's probably for a horse of a different colour.
Maybe give me a month and maybe that's what I will be on.
You're not far away.
Yeah.
You're not far away.
I have a loco, a gluten-free wrap and a carrot, some plums. They're my only non-animal.
This is unbelievable. This is like you're basically a caveman.
Everything else is cheese,
There were
yogurt,
locos for cavemen,
meat.
weren't there?
Locos?
Yeah. They were probably dates.
Dates are delicious.
They are.
That's what locos are made of. Anyway.
So tallow, you're saying
Beef,
lanolin,
tallow.
the whole shebang, like it's all there.
Don't knock it till you try it.
No, I think I think people should definitely try it. It's an elite outcome.
And just remember, you know, doctors, skincare technologists or whatever, they're trained in what they're trained in. They're not trained in anything else.
Yep.
So I'm not going to go all super alternative and woo-woo, but it's like you're not going to go to your GP and ask about acupuncture. That is not what they're trained in.
Yep.
If you go to the GP, they're going to diagnose your condition and they're going to treat it in the way they have been trained to do it.
Which is usually pharmaceutically or surgically, yes.
So, you know, open your mind.
Yes, and what's the harm? Like it's a risk-free play, really. Okay, now, how to make Mother's Day not awful?
What about how to make Mother's Day magnificent for your mother?
Let's set the bar a little bit lower to start with. Let's say not awful.
Let's preface this by this is a conversation about mums who have children, not adult children, mums.
Younger children, yeah, okay. Go on.
I've got a lot of views on this. The thing that I would say the most is you need to put yourself in the perspective of most mothers carrying heavy, heavy mental load.
Yep.
When they've got small kids, they're constantly worried about where they, you know, they can't just go out, go have a massage. You know, they go, here's a massage voucher. That's lovely, but unless you are willing to work out when she's going to go, book
the time,
make sure the kids are looked after, that it doesn't conflict with birthday parties, it's not a real gift. You're just giving more mental load to the mother in your life.
Yes, I like this.
So I would say that any gift you're giving, you've got to plan and execute right through to the end. So you could give a massage voucher, but then say, I've also looked at the diary and I think Saturday the 24th is a really good day for us to book it.
Yep.
I'm going to be with the kids.
We're going to this,
whatever.
We're doing that. Like, you know, everything's
Sally's
sorted.
got that birthday party. I'll take both the kids. You can have the hot. Also, you know, again, a massage or some other time off is not great for a mum if right up to the second before they go, it's chaos land. And then they come home all dreamy and chilled out to chaos. Like, these are the things. If you're come home with a bunch of flowers, go and get the vase, fill up the bloody vase. You're laughing.
Here's your flowers. Go put them in the, you know, you get the vase, you get the water, you do this, you do that. It's a point of
contention for us.
No, there's a little history there.
Anyway, so I would just say the way to make Mother's Day great for a mum with small children is to make it so she doesn't have to think. You're not giving her more mental load or just general task load. Don't make the kids make breakfast in bed. That's a messy kitchen.
All right, calm down. That's a bit strong. but think it
Do
through.
that on the Saturday.
But
if
isn't
you've
the
got
point you're saying about, let's say even that example is, if you're going to do that,
Yes.
think it through.
Yes.
Like, do it the whole way.
You know what I would
Clean
suggest?
up the kitchen, do this, do that.
Go with the children to the local cafe.
Yes.
Get out. Take the kids out for breakfast.
Yes.
Get takeaway for mum, her favourite things.
Yes.
Bring that home.
Yes.
So she's had a break where the house has been quiet, a little sleep in. She gets the food she really likes.
Twitching over there.
She gets food she really likes, and there's no mess. So that's a win. And then in terms of gifts, well, we know the usual trope about, like there's no vacuum cleaners, no pots, none of that
We're
stuff,
well past
right?
that, surely.
We don't want anything functional unless it is functional for her and her alone.
Yeah. Well, like when Homer bought the bowling ball for Marge
Yeah.
and wrote his own name on it.
Yeah, beautiful. So, look, I know a lot of women are really like, oh, they should just know and what I want. I actually think that, and we've got this, I have a note app. In the notes app, we have a note where I put links to things that I want.
Yes.
And it just builds over time, and they're all different price amounts. And you can pick and choose, and it's a win-win. I know I'm getting something I actually want,
Yes.
and you're getting me
But
something.
there's
I
some.
It's nice
there's
to
some
surprise.
to it, because there's 3, 4, 5 things on the list. But
Right.
I think we're getting away from your main point, and I think your
What's
main
that?
point is actually really sound. Like, buy a gift, don't buy. Like, do what you're going to do
Give
around
her a
gifts.
break.
But it's about thinking it all the way through. It's like, if the Mother's Day is a lunch, great, but it's kids right up until the line before you leave, and then it's like chaos getting to the
Yes.
place, and then you got to look after. By the way, we love our kids, but this is not a break for the mother on Mother's
That's
Day. It's
right.
like, give them an hour buffer before they take them out.
Yes.
Right? Then, get things organised.
Yeah.
Then think it through.
Like if you're going to have a lunch,
Yeah.
you say to your partner, this is what I'm going to do. At 11, I'm going to have the kids dressed. We're going to go to the playground around the corner.
Yep.
You take a full hour to get
Yes,
ready. No one
yes,
will be in the
yes.
house. I'll be back at midday to pick you up. Oh, what a dream.
Yes.
Also, I've made the booking.
Yes.
I've made sure that it meets all your dairy,
Yeah,
gluten,
well, you know
whatever
this 'cause
intolerances.
you're-
It's
yeah.
booked. There's a high chair for the baby
You
there.
just have to turn up
This is the key. This is the key.
to take the mental load. So anything that adds mental load is not a gift at all. Well, I won't say anything worse than that, but it's just not that.
So I think, and of course, like getting the kids to write beautiful cards and all of that sort of sweet things, and maybe a card from yourself where you express your gratitude for the mother in your
We
life.
don't want to raise the bar too high, right?
It's not that hard.
I have to laugh whenever
You write great cards.
I try to. When I would say, when it was around Mother's Day, and I'd speak to when I was younger, I'd speak to my father and say, what are we doing? He goes, not my mother. Right? You work it out. And he he had a point.
Yeah, it depends how old your kids are.
Yeah, I was older. I was old enough to know better. Right.
Anyway, I think we've made that very clear. Really understand what it is that your partner likes and enjoys. If you're going to plan something, you're planning, you're executing, you're making
All the
it
way.
work. All the way.
Yep.
Yep.
Think about the mental load.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Don't do cute things that the kids will find fun that just create drama for poor mum, like scrambled eggs all over the kitchen and in the bed.
Yeah, you've had your breakfast now. I'm going to play golf for the next 4 hours. No, there's a little mess in the kitchen. You'll be right.
It's Mother's Day, don't you? We spend time with children.
Oh, man. Does this still happen? I think it probably does. Anyway,
Not anymore, because we've shared our
We've just
wisdom.
saved the day. Now, is there anything else? Was there anything else on our little list today? I think that's everything.
I think we're done.
I had one more point, but I'm not going to do it today because it's
Let's
going to
save
take
it
too
for
long.
next week.
Yeah, we'll save it for next week. So thank you for today. We had magical interview questions. We had what do we have?
Election update.
Election update. We had
Buying,
Mother's
selling, a
Day,
big's
buying,
business.
selling. We had beauty. We had beef tallow. We had we had the whole shebang. Until next week, Laura Racky, thank you. Anything else?
Let's go get a steak.
Delicious.